What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Going the Distance podcast presented by ImmaculateSports.com. Twitter's at ImacSports.
Instagram is also at ImacSports.
TikTok, YouTube, Immaculate Sports. It's episode 254, and it's the trade deadline episode. It's July 22nd. We got about a week until the deadline hits, so we got a bunch of names, and we're going to try to figure out where they're going.
Yeah, it's good to get ahead of this stuff. We'll probably also react to all the trades that happen as well, too. Probably give them a grade and look at the actual packages that happen. But we're going to be going over 30 players today that were listed on ESPN's most likely trade candidates, or the top 50 trade candidates. We took the top 30, said if those guys are going to go somewhere, where they're going to go, or if they're not going anywhere, that they're staying, and maybe some reasons behind that. Obviously, player, pitcher, rookie of the week we'll do as well, too. And then maybe look at some smaller NBA stuff that we've gotten over the past couple of days. But we'll go ahead and get started with the opener. Skyler, I'll let you take the floor here.
Okay. Yeah, this was a tough one for me. The A's didn't win a whole bunch of games this week, and we're still waiting on the other sports to get rolling. But I really appreciated Brent Rooker showing out for us Tuesday night in the All-Star game. Massive 3-run homer to bring the AL back in that one. He also hit 2 homers in that swing off, even though we didn't really have a shot with like Jonathan Aranda up against Kyle Schwarber or whatever the matchups were. So that was awesome. It was great to see an A just really take over for a big event like that. And also I got to say rest in peace to the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne. I didn't realize how many MLB players like stayed in touch with them and were good friends, like Randy Johnson and Chipper Jones. So, that's one of the greatest frontmen of all time, let alone metal, all music. So RIP to Ozzy.
Of course, a legend there. My opener is going to be the Milwaukee Brewers, though. Since May 25th, they're now 35-12. 11-game win streak right now, and it feels like whoever they're pitching, like it could be a no-name, it could be an all-star like Freddie Peralta. It doesn't matter. They're going out and shoving. And I think when you just watch this team play in comparison to the other teams in these specific games, they're just out baseballing them. And that's something that we've used to describe the Brewers in the past, and it's a weird term to use because it doesn't really make sense to the naked eye. But if you watch the games, like, they run hard, they get infield hits, they steal bags, they play good defense, they do all the little things correctly to get you a win. And that's it's really fun watching the Brewers right now and how they're playing. They don't have a superstar. I don't believe they have a guy on their offense that has an OPS over like 790 or something. So it's not like really even any all-stars on the offensive side of the ball, but everybody that they're going out there and using is contributing, whether it's defense, whether it's offense, whether it's running the bases well, or just, being able to communicate with your teammates in a timely fashion. They've been playing well, playing great. Currently hold the best record in baseball at 60-40, which, isn't usually the greatest record in baseball. Usually at, 100-game mark, we're looking at a team having like maybe 65 wins or whatever. But the Brewers, best team in baseball right now. Fun to watch. We'll see where we put them next week in the power rankings.
Yeah. The Miz against Logan Gilbert tonight, too.
Check that's going to be a fun one as well, too. Definitely be tuning in for that. But that takes us, though, to our player, pitcher, rookie of the week. We'll get started with the player of the week. Skyler, who do you choose here?
I got to shout out Shohei. He hits 3 more homers and lowers his ERA to 1.5, which is ridiculous. But this week was all about Eugenio Suarez. 5 homers, 8 RBIs, a 2.0 OPS, and he's unlocked a new level of power right now, right before the trade deadline. So perfect timing for the show, too.
Yeah. Player of the week definitely works out well with this episode because he'll be the first guy that we talk about. Eugenio Suarez goes 6 for 14, 5 homers, 8 RBIs, 0 strikeouts this week as well, too, and an OPS over 2, which is ridiculous. So Gino Suarez, as people are calling him now, is my player of the week, and so is Skyler's. What about pitcher of the week?
I'm going to go with Joe Ryan, a guy who I guess is in the news potentially to be traded, but we'll see. I think like a team like Boston has to get real aggressive. But anyways, he went 7 innings with 11 Ks, did give up 1 solo shot, but it was in Colorado. So I think that's a respectful start for an all-star level pitcher.
My pitcher of the week is going to be Quinn Priester. He goes 6 shutout innings against the Dodgers, 10 strikeouts, 3 hits, no walks, no runs, of course. And just another Milwaukee Brewer pitcher that's kind of a castaway. He was with the Pirates, with the Red Sox, and then got traded to the Brewers, I believe, earlier this season, and has just taken off for them. So Quinn Priester, former top prospect, gets the pitcher of the week nod here.
He definitely has the matchup advantage compared to mine.
And then the rookie of the week, Skyler. This one starting to get very repetitive.
Yeah, once again, Nick Kurtz is unmatched. Your guy John Rave hit 3 homers this week, but A's first baseman Nick Kurtz was the AL player of the week this week because he had 7 extra base hits in just 4 games, 9 for 15 overall. So that's a 600 average for a guy who started out as just a power hitter.
Yeah, when you go 9 for 15 in a week, that's pretty ridiculous. 5 doubles, like you said, a triple in there as well, too. 2 homers, 5 RBIs, OPS higher than Geno Suarez is at 2.1. It's just crazy watching him right now. There's stretches, it feels like throughout a season that you can watch a guy play for your team. It just feels like he's not getting out. Kurtz is in that stretch right now, and it's been going on for like 2 months. So it's definitely been a treat to watch him, and you start to imagine what this guy will look like in 5 years. Unfortunately, probably in a different uniform, but you get really excited at how good and what the ceiling can actually be for a guy like this. Moving into our trade deadline projections or predictions. We're not doing packages for this because we don't want to be here for 8 hours, but we're going to go over a massive list of 30 different players like I talked about earlier and say where they're going or if they're not going anywhere. Starting off with Eugenio Suarez, who we've mentioned a few times already this episode. He's a rental free agent at season's end. Probably one of the most likely guys to get traded. Where do you think Eugenio ends up?
Yeah, I think the month that Suarez is having makes him a must-add for a team that needs a power bat. And even for Arizona, too, a team that's struggling, it makes him a must-trade. They have a bunch of infield prospects. The Yankees and, of course, Seattle seem like the best fits to me, but I'm not so sure about the trade packages from them. So I'm going to go with the Mets. Matt Shaw has had about 1 good week in his career. John Birdie's like 40. I feel like the Cubs or the Brewers are more likely to fork over a top 100 prospect. So I'm going to go with Chicago.
Okay. Well, you said the Mets the first time around.
Oh, Jesus.
That's confused me.
The Yankees and Seattle, potentially talking Cubs and Milwaukee, Central teams, may be willing to give up the big cheese.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I'm right with you here. I went with the Cubs as well, too. I definitely think the package coming back is one of the more interesting ones that you could get from any team. Jackson Wiggins, Cade Horton, I also think is another guy that could be moved from them. Who's had some pretty solid big league innings so far for the major league squad in Chicago. But this is a guy who's definitely feels like he's going to get traded. In this article on ESPN, it put a chance of trade for each player. For Eugenio Suarez, they said 90%. So pretty good chance he's getting gone unless the Diamondbacks win like 10 in a row before the trade deadline. But even with that, I still think there's a chance they move on to some of their other guys that we'll get to later on in the episode. So the next guy that we're going to talk about is Steven Kwan. ESPN says chance to trade only 20%. But he's a free agent after 2027, so only a couple of years of team control. What do you think happens with the Bay Area's very own in this trade deadline season?
I don't think Kwan gets traded this year. I get it. He's expiring soon, but I don't think Cleveland's just going to hand over their second most valuable player because they're having a worse season than last year. I think they're going to try again next year with everybody there. They got a lot of faith in Stephen Vogt.
Yeah, I agree with you here as well, too. I do think Steven Kwan ends up being a guy who stays on the roster through August and into next year. Cleveland's only 3.5 games out of a wild card spot right now as well, too. They've won 8 out of their last 10. The A's just played them in Cleveland, and you can tell right now that Cleveland squad kind of feels more like the 2024 Guardians than what they have earlier in the season. And Kwan's, besides Jarren, is like the heart of that team. So I definitely think he stays Maybe next year, if they're not in contention, that's when they really start looking to move on from him. Maybe when they have some other prospects that are a bit more ready to usher into a left field everyday role. But as of right now, I think Stephen Kwan is going to stay a Guardian through the trade deadline. Next up, a guy who's got a ton of rumors the entirety of the season so far. It's Jarren Duran. ESPN gives his trade percent at 25%. He's a free agent after the 2028 season, so quite a bit of control here.
I would have said no about a month ago when we were talking about potential trades on one of our episodes. I didn't have them on there, but since they were willing to move Devers, it wouldn't shock me at all. The article we looked at it said that the Padres love him, and they usually make at least one crazy trade every year, and they haven't done it yet. So I'm going to say he does go to the Padres. The article hits that one on the nose there.
Yeah, I also chose the Padres here as well, too. I definitely think Boston's situation is pretty unique where they already have three really good outfielders in Wilyer Abreu, Cedric Rafaela, and Roman Anthony, who should be there for a while. And that situation makes Duran expendable. When we did this a couple months ago with a couple just preliminary packages, my thing was Jarren Duran's going to get traded to the Phillies. At this point, I changed it to the Padres. I just think their pitching package is a bit better for the Red Sox, especially if the Phillies aren't willing to give up Andrew Pater, which seems like they won't. So I do have him going to the Padres as what would be one of the bigger moves that we see this trade deadline season. The fourth name on the list is Sandy Alcantara, former Cy Young Award winner, having a rough season right now. Chance of trade at 50% according to ESPN. Club option for 2027, then a free agent after that. So you get a couple years with Sandy on the roster as long as you accept that club option, of course.
Yeah, I think he is going to get traded. And because Sandy's having such a bad season, I think at this point the team he ends up with matters more than the package, which isn't going to happen a lot this offseason. So I could see this coming down to the Yankees and the Dodgers. I'll go with the Dodgers. Sandy wouldn't have to do a whole lot. Every sixth day, try to go 4 innings. That seems like a perfect rehabilitation system for him, even if he doesn't stick around with the Dodgers for that whole contract.
Sorry for the boredom, but I chose the Dodgers here as well, too. I think the Dodgers have the abundance of prospects that make this willing and good risk for them to have an experiment with a former Cy Young Award winner. The stuff has been down this year as far as strikeouts goes. Obviously, the ERA isn't great. And so the value is the lowest that we'll likely ever see for Sandy. I think the Dodgers, I'm pretty sure if I'm not, I actually know he was in St. Louis's system. That's what it was. But they can reclaim them like so easily, it feels like. It feels like such a perfect move for the Dodgers that he goes to them, and next thing you know, he becomes the same Sandy Alcantara that we were used to back in 2022, 2023. And so I think I like that move a lot. And with the Dodgers pitching injuries, I think it fits even more now. Next up, number 5 is going to be Seth Lugo. ESPN says an 80% chance he will be traded. Player option for around $15 million in 2026. So likely a free agent at season's end would be my guess, assuming that he opts out from that deal and opts for free agency instead.
Yeah, I think they're right. He's 35, potentially expiring. He's on a pretty bad team right now. He should have a decent market. And I think that Toronto is going to overpay a little bit for some rentals because they've been striking out in free agency so badly. And hey, they're in first place. They can afford to take these risks. So why not grab Seth Lugo for half a year or potentially more?
Yeah, I think Seth Lugo is probably one of the best cheap option guys available. I think he's got the ability to start and win playoff games as well, too, which means something. This isn't just a guy to help you get through the regular season. And for that, I think the Chicago Cubs are a team that stands out to me. They feel like a team that needs to add a starter, even though some of their pitching's been pretty good. It's just outside of Imanaga, I don't know who you really, really trust to take the ball in a playoff game. Seth Lugo provides that for you. And I think him going to the Cubs isn't going to cost too much for them either. Now, a couple of relievers we'll get into. Start off, Jhoan Duran of the Minnesota Twins. ESPN says chance of trade is 40%. He's under team control for 2 more years after this season. So what do you think about one of the hardest throwers in the game?
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't trade him. Maybe I'm just weird about closers, but there is no way I'm trading these next 2 guys.
I say stay as well, too. Minnesota's had a weird streaky year. They had that 11-game win streak earlier in the season, and I wouldn't, roll them out to be a team that rattles off 8 in a row out of here somewhere and gets back into the playoff race. They're only 5 games out of a playoff spot right now. Even if they don't make it this year, I don't think anyone's like, the Twins are screwed. They won't be making the playoffs the next 5 years. If they were in that situation, I'd welcome a Duran trade a bit more. But due to their likely prolonged possible contention, I think they stand pat with Duran and keep him in Minnesota for at least this next year. We hinted at it. There's another closer coming up next. It's Emmanuel Clase. Chance to trade at 20%, according to ESPN, and he's not a free agent until after the 2028 season.
Yeah, like I said with Duran, I'm not trading my closer. If you have a second guy that's exploring this kind of opportunity, then that would be perfect. And, we're hinting at it again. Twins and Guardians both have another guy, so stay tuned because I'm not trading my closer.
We'll get to those couple of guys in a second. But I say Clase does have a good chance of being moved. And I said to Philly here, and that's because of the big return. Again, he's not a free agent until after the 2028 season, so you're probably looking at a top 100 prospect here, whether that's Aiden Miller, Justin Crawford. And Cleveland, I just mentioned them not trading Kwan because of how they're in it. They have so many good relievers, and I think that makes Clase expendable, kind of similar to the Jarren Duran situation. So Cade Smith and Hunter Gaddis being that good makes it okay for you to trade Clase because of how much he will get back for you. So I say Clase is a Philly at season's end, and Philly would love him because it feels like they need a closer pretty bad. Next up, staying in the same division here, left-handed pitcher, though, starter Kris Bubic, chance of trades at 15%. He's a free agent after next season. What do you think happens to the Stanford prod?
I think he's a little closer to 50% than 15, but I still don't think he's going to be traded yet. You've talked about it on here before too, but since Lugo's probably gone, Reagan's has been hurt, and he has another year of service time, I wouldn't do it just yet.
I think if Bubic gets traded, it's a pretty clear punt on the Royals, this specific era of their team with Michael Wacha, Seth Lugo, Bubic, Salvador Perez, all the older guys on the roster. And I think the Royals don't want to do that yet, even though this season really hasn't worked out as well as last season did. I think they hold on to him. He's more likely to be traded next deadline if Kansas City's out of it again, or maybe even this offseason if they do some reassessment and realize, hey, this probably isn't the smartest to keep pushing at this with, I don't know, a 36-year-old catcher. But I think Kris Bubic stays in Kansas City in his breakout season for a first-time All-Star. Going back to Cleveland now, I kind of wish this was structured a bit better. That way we just stayed on the teams and didn't have as much foreshadowing. But we're going back to the Guardians, talking about Cade Smith here, another dominant reliever, chance to trade at 20%. And he has 4 more years of control after this season, which is huge for any team trading for him or for the Guardians if they don't want to trade for him. Trade him away.
Yeah. Everybody is going to want Cade Smith. The only problem here is I think he might be too expensive. If the Dodgers or the Phillies wanted to pull the trigger, I don't think anybody would be shell-shocked. But it's so much control for a team that was just in the ALCS. I think we're on the same page here. I think there's something with the Guardians, and that's a team that shouldn't be sellers yet.
The package would be huge if he got traded. I think it's very similar to what we would see if like a Mason Miller situation, maybe a bit less than the Mason Miller. But this guy's striking out everybody. He's been one of the best relievers in baseball for a couple of years now. So there's that consistency factor that comes with him. But I already said that the Guardians trade Clase. So Cade Smith immediately just becomes a closer, and they're okay with that. I think he's better than Clase. I've said this a couple times in the past as well too. So I think he becomes a closer in Cleveland, and I think he's there for 3-4 more years while he is controllable with the team. So he stays in Cleveland. From one setup man to another setup man, Griffin Jax is the next guy that we're going to talk about. Chance to trade out 40% right now. He's a free agent after the 2027 season. What do you think happens with the dominant Minnesota right-hander?
Yeah, I don't think Griffin Jax is untouchable. He's got less control than Cade Smith. He's already 30. So this seems like if this is the guy the Dodgers want, they should be able to pick and choose pretty easily. That's my prediction. Griffin Jax to the Dodgers. Maybe they need one more righty, one more lefty.
Yeah, Griffin Jax, I think, would be one of the best, if not the best, reliever moved at the deadline, depending on how you consider Clase and some of the other guys that we'll talk about. He's been one of the best relievers in baseball for multiple years now as well, too. This isn't like a 1-year wonder or something like that. This guy's been dominant for a long, long time. And I think the Yankees are a fit here. It would make a ridiculous back end of the bullpen where you go Luke Weaver, Devin Williams, Griffin Jax, mix match however you really want. Fernando Cruz also having a great season for them as well too. But I think the Twins will get a haul back of some closer to MLB ready guys as well too from the Yankee system that they would like. The only thing that holds it back are the Twins skeptic of trading to the Yankees because of their 9 or 10 game losing streak to them in the playoffs or something like that, and they don't want shit to come back to bite them next year if they do have a good season. I don't think it will end up affecting them, so I do have him going to the Yankees here.
Well, the Mariners keep trading with Houston, so anything can happen.
That's true. On to number 11 here, we're talking about a starter not in the AL Central. It's Mitch Keller on the Pirates. Chance to trade at 50% right now, under team contract through 2028, so a bit of a controllable starter here.
I don't think he gets traded. The rumor's been the pitching market's very thin right now, so I guess it's possible. But with 3 years left on the contract, the timing may just be off for most of the teams looking for a starter right now.
I'm going to say Boston here. I think this is a good fit for them. I think it's actually going to be a pretty big package because of Mitch Keller's underratedness and the control that comes with him as well, too. Boston has a needy rotation. We know that. I already have them subtracting Jarren Duran here. So adding a pitcher, I think, would be pretty big for a team that's had a pretty recent surge over the past couple of weeks into playoff contention once again. Mitch Keller provides some certainty in that rotation that's been lacking that outside of Garrett Crochet pretty much the entirety of the season. So Mitch Keller shipping up to Boston, shall we? On to number 12, we're talking Zach Gallen. 60% trade chance for the rental. I think that is probably a bit higher. I think he's probably one of the most likely guys to get traded this offseason or this season.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I think Zach Gallen's going to the Cubs here. They have to get somebody, and they're not going to be afraid of a rental. Gallen's been pretty unlucky over the past couple of years, so maybe he's just a guy who needs a change of scenery. This is the big, at least, arm that I have the Cubs going after, not Lugo.
I have the Houston Astros as a suitor for Zach Gallen. This is a rental on a down year. I don't think it's going to take too much. And for Houston, I don't think they're looking for an ace. I don't think that's what Zach Gallen is right now either. They have Framber Valdez, Hunter Brown, that they're very confident in taking the ball game 1 and 2 of a series. But if you're looking for a 3 or 4 guy, I think Zach Gallen fits that mold and fits into that Houston team pretty easily with another former teammate there in Christian Walker. From one Arizona starter to another, Merrill Kelly is the next guy we're going to talk about. Chance to trade at 70%, according to ESPN. He's another rental free agent after this end of the season. So where do you think Merrill Kelly lands or ends up?
Yeah, if Zach Gallen's getting traded, why wouldn't Merrill Kelly too? I think Boston is a good fit for Kelly because they don't care if you only throw 92. They just need healthy guys to compete in the East right now. And he shockingly turned 37 in October. So possibly a relatively cheap deal for them too. They've already made a couple big moves this year, and potentially Duran too.
I have a bit of a sleeper here, a team that hasn't been named yet from any of us. That's the Angels. They're not too far out of it right now, only a few games under 500 and 4 games out of a playoff spot. They've started 6 different starting pitchers the entire year, and that 6th guy only has 1 start. So I think Jack Kushinowitz finally gets the fuck out of the rotation with his 6 ERA, and Merrill Kelly goes right in there. He doesn't have to do anything crazy, but if you post a mid-4s ERA, you're getting a lot better ball than what you would from Jack Kushinowitz. So Kelly's solid. I don't think he's going to cost much for the Angels either as well, too, which is good because the Angels don't really have shit to give up either. And with the Angels being this close to contention, like, do you remember a couple years ago, last year of Shohei, they bought like crazy. They added
That's true.
CJ Cron, I think it was Hunter Renfroe, all these different guys, and then they ended up being gone like a month later. I think this is a bit lighter scenario here, and I like their odds a bit better than what they were a couple years ago when they did that. So Merrill Kelly to the Angels. Guess what? Another Diamondback. How is this team a seller? That's the crazy part. But we're moving to Josh Naylor now, their first baseman that they got from the Guardians in the offseason. He is a rental, so free agent at the end of the season. Chance of trade at 70% according to ESPN here.
I don't know if I personally would trade Josh Naylor if I had the keys. I would be trying to extend him. But with his expiring deal, that may leave them with no choice. So I'm going to agree with ESPN here. I think the best fit is Seattle. They might even be a team that's able to extend him too before it's all said and done. And they definitely should be looking for whoever's interested in trying to hit there because their lineup outside of Cal Raleigh is always questionable.
I have a fun trade idea here. I have him going to Boston. I think that personality would be fun with that team. And the trade, I did a 1-for-1 for Tristan Casas. Casas has kind of been left without a role. I know he's been hurt, and maybe he doesn't exactly fit on this team. I think it makes a lot of sense for both sides here to get the upside of Casas going back to Arizona. And Josh Naylor is a guy who serves immediate impact for a Boston lineup that's already pretty damn good. Next up is Ryan O'Hearn. So another first baseman here. Chance of trade at 85% right now. Free agent at the end of the season, so another rental. What do you think happens to the 2025 All-Star?
Yeah, Ryan O'Hearn is definitely getting moved. San Francisco should be all over this one. Bob Melvin loves his platoon guys. They're clearly all in. They've been making big moves. They're trying Rafi at first, and it's always nice to have another DH or a first baseman that's actually played there before, just in case it doesn't work out. So I would be trying to bring him in if I'm San Francisco.
Yeah. I have him going to San Francisco as well, too. The Giants have a 77 WRC plus from first baseman this year, which is not good because usually the first baseman's the guy that's supposed to apply some lumber for the team, and they just haven't had that this year. I don't like the idea of playing Rafael Devers at first every single day. I saw something saying today that, maybe the plan is for Devers to play first, Ramos to go to DH, and then they had Louis Bob to play left. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Ryan O'Hearn's a bit more of a Giants move here. They add him. He's a big platoon guy. The Giants have loved platoons for seems like forever at this point. So I think this is a good fit here, and if Ryan O'Hearn comes to the Bay. On to the back half of our list now, starting off with number 16, Marcell Ozuna, chance of trade at 70%. He's a rental, having a bit of a down year. Where do you think Ozuna from the Braves goes?
I think this is another no-brainer from a struggling team. You got to see what you can get from Marcell Ozuna. And I think the Tigers are in a pretty unique situation right now. They could use a DH that doesn't cost them too much. And I feel like they're going to try to get at least somebody from this list, this top 30.
I have a team that I haven't mentioned yet. The Texas Rangers picking up and grabbing Ozuna. Pretty cheap. The Rangers DH spot has not produced this year. It's a league low 49 WRC plus from their DHs this year. Ozuna not having the greatest year, but he gets on base like crazy still. Maybe the power just isn't there, but nobody's had power in Texas anyways. So I think he fits in pretty well there. And Ozuna from the Braves goes to the Rangers. Next up, a fun pitcher here at 25%. It's Taj Bradley from the Tampa Bay Rays. He's controllable through 2029, only 24 years old. An interesting and one of the more unique starters on the market, him and this next guy that we'll talk about.
Yeah, I don't buy it, man. Unless Tampa thinks that Bradley's hit his peak or something like that, I don't think they would trade him yet. They would wait for the perfect time.
Yeah, he's fun. It's an interesting package because he's so young, and it's an interesting scenario because it's the Tampa Bay Rays, and just because someone seems like they are going to be there for a long time does not mean anything. And so I think they hit up their old trade pals from this offseason and send them to the A's.
That'd be awesome.
It's a bit of a crazy package. And because it's the A's, I'm like, okay, why not make a mock trade here? So I said Colby Thomas, Henry Bolte, and Daniel Susac would be the three I would give up to get it done. As long as you don't have to give up Morales, Jump, or Jamie Arnold, I think you're okay with it. Taj Bradley obviously probably doesn't go to a contender this year with the A's, but hopefully something in the long term for them has been brewing. Taj Bradley seems like a consistent starter. He's already, I believe, good friends with Florence Butler as well too. It's a bit of a relationship there, and I think if you are the A's, you're willing to give up Thomas, Bolte, and Susac because it really isn't a spot for them in the big leagues. On to Edward Cabrera, which is a fun one. Chance of trade close to what it was for Taj Bradley. He's at 30%. He's controllable until after 2028. What do you think about the MLB The Show legend?
I'm not doing it with Edward Cabrera either. He's finally healthy again. The Marlins are playing well. They're fun. I'm not going to mess with that outside of Sandy.
Yeah, I think he stays as well too. I wouldn't be surprised if Peter Bendix moves him because that's what he's done pretty much the entire time that he's been the GM for them. But I think he also realizes that this team is a bit better than what other people were expecting it to be. And in 3 years from now, when you're probably going to be trying to compete for a playoff spot, maybe even next year try to compete for a playoff spot, having a guy like Edward Cabrera is going to be pretty damn good because he might be an all-star. He's got great stuff. He's had super dominant outings at times. And I think if you're 3 years from now and you have Yuri Perez and Edward Cabrera as your 1-2 in your rotation, you're pretty solid. So I think he stays in Miami, and I think he stays in Miami long term, as in through 2027.
Miami's got to hit that over still.
Exactly. Yeah. On to a reliever, Felix Bautista. Only 15% chance of trade here, which is a bit interesting, I think. He's a free agent after a couple years, I want to say. So after 2027, I think. What do you think for the Mountain, as they call him?
This is the rare Baltimore player that I'm going to hold on to if I'm them. Of course, if one of the big dogs comes in with a big offer, he's going to be available. They're not going to turn him away. But there are a lot of great options, too, that haven't just had Tommy John. So maybe that'll help them decide to hold on to Bautista for one more year.
Yeah, I think Big Felix stays in Baltimore this year. I think it's kind of similar to the Jhoan Duran situation where they don't trade him because they're not planning to be bad for long. And if next year comes around and you traded Bautista and your team's playing really well and you're like, fuck, we need to go get a closer, would have been a whole lot easier if we just never traded him. And so I do think he stays in Baltimore this year. But if it goes bad next year, then maybe that's when they start to really look at him being moved. Number 20 is David Bednar, who's had a fun year for the Pirates after having a weird past couple of years. Chance to trade at 60%. He's a free agent after next season, so it's not a simple rental here. What do you think happens to the Pirates closer?
Yeah, I think he gets traded, and I think they probably should have done it a couple years ago too, but they'll still get something for him. I have the Yankees going after him. They love their bullpen projects. So if they don't land one of the big guys that we already talked about, I know you had Griffin Jacks going to the Yankees. If they miss out, David Bednar's a fine seventh inning guy.
Yeah, I like the Yankees fit as well too. I didn't do it, but the Yankees and splitters usually are a pretty good match. So I do like that comparison there. I haven't gone to the Tigers. The Tigers have been in a weird spot where they haven't really had a full-time closer for the past couple of years and still pitched really well. It's maybe by design to just get different looks and stuff with different guys. But I think David Bednar can provide some stability for the back end of that bullpen as a guy who has a ton of saves in his career. So Bednar goes to the AL Central leading Detroit Tigers. Number 21 is Cedric Mullins. He is a rental, chance of trade at 70%, according to ESPN.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I think that Baltimore should be dumping most of the guys they know aren't going to be coming back. And I have them going to Houston. They're missing a couple of lefty bats. Yordan Alvarez is a massive one that they're missing in the lineup. And I think this is another guy that just needs a change of scenery. Maybe seeing the Crawford boxes is something that'll help him out instead of seeing that massively deep opposite field, left field.
I went with Philly for Cedric Mullins. He's a cheap rental, so again, it not going to cost too much. Left-handed bat that can play center field defense is pretty valuable still. The bat, I don't think you're looking at like a 800 OPS guy, but if he posts 750 OPS numbers and hits 10 homers for you in a couple months, I think you're okay with that. So Cedric Mullins to Philly makes a lot of sense for me here. Number 22, Ryan McMahon. It says 40% chance of trade here. He is not a cheap rental. He's a free agent after 2027 and still has about $30 million left on his contract for the next 2 years.
Yeah, I have Colorado keeping McMahon. Last night, Brett and I were going through some of the all-time leaders for Colorado, and even though he's obviously not going to have the same level of impact as a Cargo or Tulo did, the counting stats with a few more years will have him only behind Todd Helton. And I think that's just an interesting story. I want to see him play out his time in Colorado as long as he can. He's been so valuable for them.
I have McMahon on the move here, and I have him go to the Bronx with the Yankees. I don't think the money's the problem for them. I think the Yankees have the abundance of pitching prospects that Colorado likes in order for them to get a deal done. I don't think you're going to be looking at a super expensive deal prospect-wise for the Yankees either because of the contract. Yeah. So I don't mind that. And I think the Yankees don't mind that either, considering they probably have a good amount of money to spend. Next up, number 23, Pete Fairbanks, closer for the Tampa Bay Rays. Chance of trade at 35%. He's a free agent after 2026, so you get this year and next year with him.
Yeah, I think deep down the Rays have got to know that they're still sellers. So I would trade him to the Phillies. They're going to be without one of their best arms for the postseason, Alvarado, and they always pick up at least one bullpen guy. They still need a lefty, of course, but they have the prospects to do whatever they want, just like the Dodgers, if they see a fit. And I think this could be one. Maybe a better Romano.
I like the Dodgers here. I think the Rays like the Dodgers as well, too. They've had some comfortable trades with them over the past few years that I think they're okay with. Obviously, they have a ton of prospects to choose from. And I think the Dodgers like him as well, too. Gives them another arm in the back end of their pen that's really tough, really unique as well, too. So I think the reigning champs is the place that Pete Fairbanks will land. A name that's kind of polarized the trade deadline the past couple of years now is coming up next. It's Luis Robert Jr. Chance of trade now at 50%. His contract is also weird because he's got club options for next year and the season after that for around $20 million a year. So a lot of money on the table, but also a player that can be really good at times or also really shit.
Yeah, that's definitely a risky move, but I think he will get traded finally this year. And I'm going to go back to back Philadelphia here. I feel like I've been waiting 6 years for him to get traded to the Phillies. They could use a right-handed bat. The upside may be too high to turn down. And that's the kind of thing that makes you want to give him to a medium-sized market team. But if a big market like Philadelphia has an offer they can't refuse, then that's where he'll go.
I saw a tweet earlier today, and I think I agree with this. This will probably be a trade that many people look at when it happens, say, "Oh wow, that's all it took to get Louis Bob," and the other teams will be like immediately deemed a winner of this trade because of the tools that Louis Robert has. And I think the Mets are the winner of the Louis Robert sweepstakes. They have the prospect capital to give up. They have the ability to play him in center field. The Mets offense in center field has not been good. And when Louis Bob is right, he's a legit five-tool player. He's stolen 40 bags in his career. He's hit 30 plus homers. He's played Gold Glove defense at times as well too. So I'll go Louis Bob to the Mets. I think it'd be a fun addition to that team, and it's also a spot where he goes there. Like, of course, they're going to be relying on him, but he's not like hitting third and the center of attention on that roster. He's probably a 6 hitter or a 7 hitter and just needs to play good defense and hit around league average.
I could see it.
Next up, get into our final few here. Looking at Taylor Ward, chance of trade at 45%. He's a free agent after 2026, so not just a rental for the Angels.
Yeah, I don't think Taylor Ward's going to get traded this year. A lot of potential spots are filled up in my scenario already, so that helps with that. And Ward said last week that he wants to finish out his contract in LA. Who knows if he does get to finish it? But like he hinted at earlier, the Angels just don't seem like the kind of team to do this right now. Seems like they're the kind of team that want to bring in, Justin Upton and Andrelton Simmons still.
Yeah. I have them staying. I already had the Angels adding, so I don't think it would make sense for Ward to go anywhere. He's been a constant bat for them for like 5 years at this point. Has a ton of homers, and I think it fits for him to stay in not Los Angeles, but Anaheim. Moving on to Nolan Arenado. 30% chance of trade. He's a free agent after 2027, and he's owed a lot of money. What do you think happens for the likely future Hall of Famer?
Because of that contract, I'm going to say no unless the Yankees really want him, similar to your Ryan McMahon deal. I just think that's the only good fit right now. I think they would have moved him last year if they could, and I don't think they can.
Yeah, it seemed like this whole offseason this past year was, where's Nolan Arenado going to be traded to? And at first the candidates were high, and then the candidates became none when they realized what his contract looks like and what the production's like and how long he will actually be a good defender for, and how long will the bat stay at least league average. And I don't think anybody's taken the bait for Nolan Arenado at this point in his career. So I think he stays in St. Louis. St. Louis, again, isn't out of it either. Like, they are, I believe, a few games over 500, 52 and 49 right now, 3.5 games out of the NL wild card. So things aren't done in St. Louis. And I think Nolan Arenado being there is probably something because of that. And then I guess he also has a full no trade clause. So if there is a trade, he would have to approve it as well too. Now moving on to Ryan Helsley, closer for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Helsley, I could see getting traded. Detroit is a team that hasn't made a big pitching move in my simulation yet. So I think that there's a good chance they go after a bullpen piece. The expiring deal for Helsley is the only reason that he's available. But St. Louis is so weird, man. We always think they're going to do something, and they usually don't. But this is a guy I think they could actually get something for. So Detroit.
I forgot to mention 60% trade for him. Free agent at season's end, like you mentioned. I have them staying in St. Louis. Again, they're still in it. I think this has a lot of him to do, or one of the main reasons for him staying has a lot to do with the attendance problem in St. Louis as well, too, that they've experienced over the past few years. Like, if you were to watch a Cardinals game, I don't know, like 2021 or non-COVID season, so I guess 19, any year that attendance wasn't impacted because of COVID, you'd see the stadium full. The past few years, like, it's not that way. They realize, like, this team's on the out and out. And right as they possibly have a chance to contend, if they trade their closer, a guy who's been there for a long time, I don't think that'd go over well with the fan base. So I think Helsley stays in St. Louis here and rides out with the Cardinals. Whether that's the right choice or not, I think it's the best, probably, money move for them as of right now. Number 28 is Adolis Garcia. 50% chance he gets traded, apparently. He's a free agent after 2026. What do you think happens for the World Series champ just a couple years ago?
I think if Texas was like 6 games worse, maybe they would do it. But since Texas is still in the hunt, I don't think they're going to be sellers this year. The only thing I could think of is a 1-for-1 for a DH that's a little younger, if anyone's willing to do that, which is probably not.
Yeah, I don't see Adolis getting moved either. Texas is still in it. Adolis is a fan favorite, so I think him staying in Texas is pretty easy here. 2 more to go, starting off with a former top prospect. It is Reed Detmers, who has found himself in the bullpen this year, actually. Chance of trade at 15%, so pretty low one there. And he's not a free agent until after 2028. What do you think happens with the former first-round pick?
If the Angels don't see him being a closer or a starter again, then I could definitely see it happening. Baltimore's pitching staff is really bad. They would most likely be willing to take the risk, maybe even the Yankees too. So I'll say Baltimore. I'll say he does. It's going to be a really weird package because he was a top prospect. He is pitching well. It's just not exactly what we thought. It's a really risky one, and I'm going to regret it, but I say he does get traded.
I'm saying he stays in with the Angels. Since the move to the pen, the stuff looks really good. I don't really think there's a ton of sense in moving him now because he does have that closer possibility depending on what happens with Ben Joyce in the long term. I think some teams would be willing to give up quite a bit for him as well too, which is pretty interesting. I don't really know what the package talks about or looks like you kind of talked about, but I just don't think there's a ton of sense in the Angels giving him up right now.
Maybe in the offseason to Tampa or something.
Yeah, when Tampa offers you a way too good package that is like a one-time offer, then you get scammed by them and he turns into a Cy Young or something. But
they draft so many pitchers, dude. I don't know. Like, what do they even think about him right now?
It's the Angels, man. Do they even know who he is? But the last guy we'll talk about is the A's guy, Luis Severino. Chance of trade at 25% right now, according to ESPN. He's a free agent after 2027. A lot of money on the contract. What do you think happens here?
Another guy where I just have no idea, man. I mean, who would even want him on that contract right now? Maybe if the Mets wanted him back, maybe we would have to give a prospect too for that trade to go through. I just don't think it's happening this season.
I think it is weird for Severino, but I do think the Mets would take a flyer on him. And before I get into it, I'll play the devil advocate for it real quick on why it wouldn't happen. Why it wouldn't happen is because the Mets didn't offer this contract to him in the offseason for a reason. He's underperformed pitching, and I think maybe the Mets saw that. But the other side of that is that the Mets have kind of struggled at times to find formidable starters, especially at the back end of the rotation. And I think Severino is about as sure as a 4 starter as you can find in the big leagues nowadays. It would likely be an overpay regardless, but one thing that we know about the Mets is that they're not shy with their money, that's for sure. And I think it would make sense of any team for him to go back to the Mets. I also like Toronto as a possible chance as well too.
They're always a wild card.
But definitely, I don't think the A's would be getting, they're not getting baby Acuna back or something like that for
They're getting their
him
48th ranked prospect.
Exactly. You just got the 20th round pick for the last 3 years back to back to back there for him. But that will do it for this segment of the show. We'll move to the second half with Skyler talking about some NBA moves.
Yeah, the summer league wasn't great. I couldn't watch the end. Shout out to Charlotte. Concanipple finally figured it out, like I told you a couple weeks ago. But that's not important. What's important is the moves that are starting to finally come through now with all the money issues in the NBA. Got a couple of veterans moving. So we'll start off with CP3 going back to the Clippers. Nice little retirement tour for him, and they're probably going to make the playoffs, at least the play-in. It wasn't a bad team. They're just pretty old. So I don't know who's going to play defense outside of Kawhi Leonard on that squad, but a familiar face, and they're going to pack that new arena for sure. Another team that we're very familiar with, the Golden State Warriors. And nothing has been officially signed yet, but the rumor is that Jonathan Kuminga is holding up a couple of smaller moves here. They're potentially bringing in next week Al Horford and DeAnthony Melton, which is cool. Horford is a big man who's a good shooter. That's what they look for now, especially with Kevon Looney being gone. And DeAnthony Melton, when he doesn't have a torn ACL, is a great backup point guard, great defender. So I'm just still wondering what in the world is going on with Jonathan Kuminga, man. I mean, I've heard he's just on vacation, just chilling in the Congo, and he hasn't made up his mind. But Miami, Sac, potentially the Lakers have checked in. That's the only thing holding it up for the Warriors right now, and why they haven't made a move. One other pretty big move, not for this season, but potentially the year after. Damian Lillard back to Portland, 3-year deal, a lot of money, and that's maybe not the farewell tour yet, but it's the beginning of it. He's going back home. I think he realized that coming back to Portland and helping them figure out the future is more important for his legacy, maybe, than getting a couple extra bucks from Milwaukee. No pun intended. I didn't even write that down. Anyways, good for Portland. They're going to be watchable in another year with Dame Lillard coming back after his Achilles. And then one more smaller move. Marcus Smart's going to the Lakers. I guess LeBron needs another enforcer around him. Marcus Smart's won a depoy. He's getting up there, but at least he can play some solid minutes for you. And that's kind of what's been going on in the NBA. Shout out to your squad for your football squad for bringing in Jamal Adams today. Congrats, man. What's the over-under on games played? 3.5?
I think it's 0.5. I wouldn't be shocked if we cut him before the season starts. It's just like, okay, at this point, like, what are we going to even do with him? But I think, we brought in Devin White, Jalen Smith, and Jamal Adams now this offseason. And I saw, like,
now those are the Raiders.
Still got it. Yeah, I saw, like, an Unk still got it meme with them, which is pretty funny. But I do want to hit on the Damian Lillard going back to Portland real quick. It's weird. It's a weird move because we don't see signings like this too often. I know it's like unique because Damian Lillard played so many years in Portland. But it really does feel like Damian Lillard just punted his chances at ever winning an NBA championship. No matter how good Portland gets, like, they're not going to be good enough to win an NBA championship. And you don't really see moves ever like this where he's not a superstar anymore, but a star in the league, albeit coming off of or going through a pretty big injury right now, like, just give up on their chances to win a ring. Like, the big thing to do in the NBA is ring chase and create super teams and all these little things. But Damian Lillard's like, nope, I'm okay. I'm going back to Portland and just going to ride out the rest of my career. I mean, good for him, I guess, to be able to be, so honest about it and realize what he's got and say, okay, being a legend in Portland and being the greatest player to ever play for this franchise is more important to me than winning a ring. And the loyalty definitely shows with him. But I don't know if it's the move I would make if I was in this situation, but maybe home is just home,
Or that's the
which is
one
why you should have
thing
went to the
that'll.
Warriors.
Yeah, that would have been something, but maybe that it's a little too much money, I think, for me, for a guy who just tore his Achilles. That's the only thing.
Yeah. Anyways, we are moving to the bowl predictions. Last week, I didn't make a layup or bowl prediction.
You were right.
Because you were in the middle of the break, and it paid off because Skyler got both of his wrong. His layup last week was Philly over the Angels on Friday. That did not happen. I believe Kyle Schwarber hit a big go-ahead grand slam in that one for the Phillies. Or for the – wait, no. I got it
They
wrong.
choked.
Yeah, they did choke.
Mm-hmm.
But the Angels won that game. My bad. This week, I have the Milwaukee Brewers over Seattle on tomorrow. That's Quinn Priester's first start since that good outing that we talked about at the beginning of the show against Luis Castillo. I'd like Milwaukee to play good over the Mariners team that has not been playing the best ball since the break started back up.
All right. Going back to baseball, I'm going to try to do it right. Baltimore is hosting Colorado on Friday night. That's Senzatella facing Trevor Rogers, who's been really good since coming back this year. Sub-2 ERA and a couple starts. So they're going to ride that out. I don't really know what Baltimore is going to look like in 2 weeks from now, but we mentioned maybe not a complete blow-up. So they could still win some games.
Last week, bowl prediction didn't do anything. Skyler's bowl prediction last week, he chose Baltimore to win at Tampa on Friday. Just if my memory is correct here, I want to say Tampa won a lot to very little that game. This week, though, new slate. I have Toronto over the Yankees on Wednesday. Maybe not, a bold prediction, but it is Max Fried versus Chris Bassett. So I think the pitching matchup advantage goes to the Yankees here, and it could lead to the Blue Jays being a slight underdog at home in Toronto. It's been bumping there every single game in the Rogers Center. It's fun to watch when they're playing home games right now. So I'm gonna go Toronto getting the win over the Yankees tomorrow.
I'm going with a very bold prediction in this one. I got the White Sox beating the Cubs in the rivalry game here, and I'll tell you why in a second. It's Shota Imanaga at Adrian Hauser, and it just seems like every single year there's a rental who no one thinks is going to be able to do anything. That's Adrian Hauser this year, having a great season, getting signed a minor league deal and going all the way up for Chicago, who has that amazing start right before the deadline and is able to be traded for something. So maybe they don't end up winning. But I'm going to have Adrian Hauser outdueling Imanaga in this game and getting traded for something he probably doesn't deserve to be traded for.
I like good job, Hauser, though, by the White Sox on flipping Adrian Hauser in the middle of the season. But that's going to do it for episode 254. Next week, episode 255, we'll get back to some power rankings. Hopefully, maybe we can start to grade some trade deadline deals once we get those rolling in. But that'll do it. Any parting notes, guy?
Keep your stick on the ice. I know it's summer, but hey, college football is coming soon.
It's true. How long until week 0?
I think it's 5 weeks. Yeah, there's a Big 12 game in Ireland, or so. It's like Kansas State's playing Texas Tech in Ireland, week 0. That's the first game, I think. So that'll be sick.
Perfect.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Awesome.
Have a good night, Kyle.
See you next week.